Okay, I guess we'll start right away. Um, Good evening, everyone, and welcome to. Hello, Spiral Damsel. Hello. Welcome, everyone. It's good. Thank you for joining us. Our topic today is on CV editing, and I guess we all have at one point in time needed CVs or resumes, and then need to send it for job search. Sometimes you need your CV not just for a job search. Sometimes even as an entrepreneur, you need to put your CV together so that and the CV of your company so that you can use it to bid for work. But today we'll be focusing more on the professional side of things, we where we'll be talking about CVs for job search. First, sometimes we hear of resume and we hear of CVs. What's the difference between a resume and a CV? Basically, a resume is a summarized version, is a shorter version, while a CV is a longer one. A resume is usually like a page or maximum 2 page, whereas a CV is longer and has more content than a resume. In summary, a resume is basically a summarized version of what you've done and what you've achieved. So we'll be looking at, but please start sending in your questions. Please type your questions so that as I progress with the tips, we can, I can also answer those questions. So, and then can everyone still hear me? Please confirm you can still hear me. Okay, so I'll progress right the way. I'll be talking about tips, mistakes, and common mistakes people make when preparing their CVs. First and foremost, at the top of most CVs, whenever you see them, you realize that you find date of birth, address, sex, nationality, and all those things on most people's CVs. It's clearly a no-no, and please do not include anything around your age. Don't put anything around your gender. Don't put anything around your nationality, and also don't put your picture. These are so the reason why you shouldn't put those were that they are sources of bias against you. So you want someone to look at your CV and see it for who you are and what you've achieved, not your gender, not your age, not your nationality or tribe, or not your marital status. So please always exclude personal details like your age, your date of birth, your age, gender, marital status, and co from your CVs. The basic things that are the most important things you need to identify yourself or to for contact on your CV is basically your phone number and your email address. Your phone number and your email address. No typographical errors with respect to them. Clearly indicate your phone number. If it's a Nigerian number, please always put the country code. If for Nigeria, our country code is +234. Always put the and confirm that the numbers you put are actually the right numbers. Your email address, please, if it is .co.uk, let it be clear. Don't make a mistake of putting .com. If it is .co, leave it as .co, not .com. So ensure the typos are also very good. Then, with respect to email addresses, there is also a need for us to avoid funkified email addresses. For example, if my email address, if my name was maybe Naspire official or Naspire fine boy or something like that, don't put an email address that has something like Naspire, sexy Naspire, or fine Naspire at yahoo.com. Always, most times, ensure that your name is, your email address is clearly your first name and your last name. In my own case, my name is Tunji Adegbite. My email address is olatunjiadegbite@sosoandso.com. So if your name is Muhyiddin Kunle, let your email address be kunle.muhyiddin or Muhyiddin Kunle. Let it be like that. Stop putting funkified names as your email address. Remember where we started from? Please don't include your picture on your CV. Don't include your gender. Don't include your age or date of birth, and don't include your marital status. Leave those personal information. They tend to create a bias against you rather than for you. Key contact details you need: your phone number with the country code, and then your email address. An email address, please let it be very clear. Your name and your surname at maybe Gmail or Yahoo or any other network you're making use of. Next, we'll be talking about the length of CV. Always keep your CV concise. A CV that is 5 pages long is not good. It's not fit for purpose. If you have 5 years or less experience, your CV shouldn't be more than 2 pages. If you are a recent grad or you are serving, doing NYSC, or you are less than 5 years experience, your CV should not be more than 2 pages. If you have 10 years and above experience, then it can be up to maybe 3 or 4. But no CV should be more than 4 at all. But if you are a young, if you are a young experienced person, or you are a recent graduate, please, 1 page is okay, but not more than 2 pages. Next, we'll say is always tailor your CV. This is something people make a mistake on. Always tailor your CV to the organization and to the job you're applying for. Some people have just one type of CV, and that's the same CV they keep using each and every time. Always tailor your CV to the job or the organization. How do I mean? If you are advertising, if you are applying for a marketing executive job, or probably a graduate trainee job, there's a way you need to put your CV. You need to mention skills that are relevant to that job. Same time, you might also be applying for a finance role. So the CV that you will use to apply for a finance role needs to be different from the CV you will use for a marketing role, and will also be different from a CV you use for HR role, because what the organization is looking for is different. So always tailor your CV to the job being applied for, and then to the organization. Next, we'll talk about we've talked about the size. Please, your CV should be very concise, not so long. The other thing we'll leave is some of us have had gaps in our year. Probably you were seeking for admission, or you were seeking for a job, or you lost a job after some time. Please always explain those gaps. Don't leave the gaps. Always put it, probably you were freelancing, put it there. If there was a time period where you had no job, just put it freelancer, or the courses you were taking during that period when you had no job. Always put in place all gaps. Next, a lot of people tend to put referees on their CV. Referees, and then you see the names Mr. So and so, Miss so and so on their CV. Please, any organization, you don't need to put your referees. Best case, put referees available on request. When you get to the interview and they want to give you an offer, they will ask you for your referees. So you don't need to put your referees on your CV. Next, we'll talk about, just hold on. Then in terms of errors. Now, most of us make some simple basic mistakes that once people look at those CVs, it turns people off. Imagine someone having thousands of CVs to review. And most times they even use an algorithm. They use a CV software. So things like typographical errors, formatting of your CV, font size, font type. Please ensure all font types are aligned. You don't have Times New Roman at the beginning and then you have Arial at the end. Or you have font 11 at the beginning and then towards the end you see font 10 and then you see font 9 in one place. The only part of your CV that should have a different font is your name. The only part of your CV that should have a different font size, not font type, font size, is basically your name. And that is if you were using 11 for other parts of the CV, maybe your name can have 13 or 14. And at the same time, when you're writing your name on your CV, please let it be first name and then last name, not last name and then first name. First name, if it is short enough, you can put your middle name and then your last name, or basically put Olatunji, my middle name, initials of my middle name, A dot my surname Adegbite. So always ensure your name is first name, initials of the middle name, and then your surname or your last name. Next, we'll talk about removing errors. So please always check for facts, always check for typographical errors, always spell check, always look at the gaps, the dates, and everything, that everything is correct. Proofread your CVs. Let someone also proofread for you because they might be able to spot things. In Africa, mostly we use UK English, British English. The way Microsoft Word spells organization, for example, it uses a Z, whereas British English requires us to use an S. It is organized, not organize. So those little things matter. If you're using British English, use British English all through. Most of us, for those of us in Nigeria, it's British English that is our adopted language. Using Z is basically American English. So always check for those errors. If there's a particular percentage that you use or a particular number, ensure that that number is correct. Next, we'll always say some people, sometimes in their CV, they don't tell the truth. They overestimate what they've done and then they get to interviews or they say, let me get in first. Please do not lie about your grades. Do not lie about your experience. Tell the truth. Don't say you have a particular qualification when you don't have it. Most organizations will say, okay, they have they require second class upper. Don't say you have second class upper when you do not have second class upper. That's an integrity issue. Even if you pass through all the stages of the recruitment, once they ask for you to verify your certificate and you do that, they will automatically disqualify you. So please always tell the truth. Next, we would say after you talk about your name, your contact details, then there's always a need to put a summary, more like a profile, where you talk of, okay, Amana Samson is a person. You talk about your career objective and then your skills and competencies. Always put that in your summary, not more than probably 4 lines. Always make it concise and short. Amana something, for example, is so and so. Your career objective is to maybe be be the best HR professional or be an expert in HR. And then what are your skills and competencies? Those are the things you need to have in that profile, in that summary portion of your CV. Next, we'll talk about how you put things. Do you put your work experience first or you put your education first? Remember, we started from your name, your contact details, your name, then your summary of your profile, and then now it's always good to put your work experience first. Please type questions Questions are allowed as at this stage. Clarifications and feedback, please. Let's make it as interactive as possible. So you now talk about your work experience. Always talk about your work experience in a chronological order. Basically from most recent to the least recent. Not the other way. If you're on a current job, talk about that current job before you talk about the jobs that you've done or the places you've worked before. Next, with respect to work experience and any other experience, please always write it from an accomplishment perspective, not a responsibility perspective. Write about on your CV, write about your work experiences from an accomplishment, outcome, achievement perspective, not a responsibility perspective. For example, if you had worked as an HR professional, don't say I was a recruitment professional, sorting CVs, recruiting candidates and co. Don't put it that way. Rather, put it like recruited 500 candidates, or recruited in accomplishment, what you have done. Recruited, and is in past tense, recruited 50 candidates within a year. Always make it smart, specific, measurable, achievable, time bound. Always say it, or if it's something that you did it in record time, then you can say recruited 50 candidates within a 3-month cycle with cycle time. Or if you are a finance person, reduce part of the team that reduce costs by 15% using blah blah blah. So there is always a need to talk about that accomplishment in terms of what was the achievement, how did you do it, and then the outcome. What was it? So basically you start with that past tense, in past tense, that verb, which is delivered, participated, reduced, recruited, drove, grew. So past tense action words that say what you've done. Grew sales by 10% within 12 months. That is how you should talk about your work experience, what you've achieved. Facilitated trainings for 100 people, which helped them. So you also need to say what it led to. Remember, this is a very key thing. Most people you find on CVs, and then you see things like was responsible for cash call, was responsible for stocking, was responsible for recruitment. It's not about your responsibilities. It's basically about your achievements. From your achievements, an expert recruiter will know the skills and competencies you have, and then they can call you, because it is in those achievements that it will point out, okay, these are the experiences this person has passed through. Next, it's always also good to talk about relevant skills. So when you're talking, so don't put more than 3 or 5 jobs that you've gone through, that you've been through. So, but remember, in chronological order. Next, volunteer experience. In the world we are in today, it's a global environment, and the soft skills are becoming important. Very, very important. So it's always good to include your volunteer experiences on your CV. For example, NYSC. It's mandatory, but what did you do during NYSC? Taught in a school, taught mathematics to 100 students in SS3, and it resulted in maybe 20% or 50% pass rate, or 50% having distinctions. So volunteer experience is very key. Have you ever been, probably you participated in a conference, Always include that on your CV with clear outcomes. Or you were probably you do something in your church, you are an usher in your church, or you lead a particular section in your church. Those are good things to put. Write them in a professional approach though, from an accomplishment perspective, because they show that you have leadership skills and those soft skills to be able to manage people. Next, we'll talk about typos, the gap. Okay, we've talked about gaps. We've talked about telling the truth. We've talked about focusing on our accomplishments, and then your summary. Then we'll also need to talk about just trying to pick the few points here. Please always do a fact check. Spelling of your name, spelling of your school, spelling of your places of work, and then in some cases some companies might have changed name. So for example, probably you worked at Etisalat and it's now 9Mobile. So don't leave it on your CV as Etisalat. Change it to 9Mobile. Always move with time. At this point, I think I will take questions and further clarifications as you may require. Benga, thank you for joining. Prince, Olanipekun Rose, thank you. IAPP, Spoto, Samson, please, questions, clarifications on your CV. While the questions are coming, please don't forget your name, your contact details, summary of your profile, your work experience, your volunteer experience, and then your education with your grades. And then you can now talk about other activities. But please don't put your gender, don't put your age, don't put your picture, sometimes even don't put your home address. If they need it, they will ask after that. Tailor your CV to the job you're asking for. Don't have the same CV and be spreading it around for different types of job. If you are a grad and you're applying for a finance role or a marketing role, please, they require different CVs. Always tailor it to the job description. When you see an advert and they say they want a so and so person, always tailor your CV with that. A question, how and where do you add other experience, such as church you mentioned, under volunteer experience? So a section after your work experience, always have volunteer experience, because what you did in church is basically you're volunteering. So be it an usher, not more than one line. Don't let it consume so much, because but it shows that you have interpersonal relationship, interpersonal skills, shows you have leadership skills, and you've been able to do event management. Those are certain skills that probably you didn't get on the job, but they also help to build the individual. If you also have skills like being able to do some digital marketing, being able to do things like you're very good in Microsoft Office suite, you're very good in event management, please always put them on your CV. Thank you for that question. Hope that answers your question. Or am I missing more questions? Hold on. One other thing that's very good is when you have your CV, please always get someone else to look at it for you. If you, after looking at it, and you still feel your CV needs some editing, please, you can send us an email at naspire, vimbai@naspire.com. We provide CV editing services, and for a token, we will definitely help you edit your CV. So just do us an email, vimbai@naspire.com, and for 5,000 naira, would help you. If you want it with a cover letter, it's 7,500 naira. Okay, guess we've answered your question. Any more questions, further other tips, clarifications? Okay, is it possible to have an informal CV? For example, if I'm applying for a job at a creative company. Now, I think maybe you can expatiate on the question, but if I get what you're saying, like maybe you are applying to maybe an advertising company or a creative company where you need to put it on your CV. Now, a CV should be the way it is. Now, for such companies, they also usually ask you to present something that you've done before. So that is where you can actually get creative, but not a case of making your CV have so many colors. Because it's a creative company, if they ask for a CV, they give them the CV in the right format. But what you find is that for those companies, they usually say, okay, please, they give you maybe a question or something, or they say, okay, talk about our company in very creative terms. So they do that. So that is a way for you to now apply those creativity. But if it is, they ask for a CV, please send your CV the way it is. The way it should be, which is what we've discussed. Ensure that formatting is right, font type, font size, everything, they are aligned. Not that if you are a justification, if it's moving, the alignment of your font, if it's moving to the left, let it be to the left, everything to be on the left. But it's best that for you not to justify your text. Another question, how can a banker who does home lesson as a side also include that experience? So that's also part of your volunteer experience, other work experience. So basically you put it that, okay, freelance teacher or something like a freelance teacher for kids for maybe 2 or 3 kids, which has helped them. You need to always talk about the outcome. If you've done home lesson, how has it helped those kids? Teaching is actually a very good thing to put on one's CV, because it shows, one, especially if you are teaching those that are less experienced than you, it shows that, one, you have patience. 2, you have something that you can pass. It is a sign of emotional intelligence, because being able to teach kids or those below you shows that you can take time out to explain a thought process. So put it under your other experience or volunteer experience. Welcome, Omebeyin, sorry. Welcome. I hope that has answered your question, Digbadebo and Spiral. Please, just to also add, don't write it on your CV as side hustle. Just put it as volunteer / other experience, and then you can actually put it there. Don't write anything called side hustle on your CV, please. Any further questions? Hope we've not missed anything. Please always have your CV reviewed by someone else. 2 heads are better than 1. And if after that you still need some help, please shoot us an email at vimbai@naspire.com. For a token, we'll help you edit your CV. The email address again, vimbai@naspire.com. we'll put that on our Instagram page and also on our site. If you want more tips for CV editing, please visit our site. There are tips on it, or our Instagram page w.naspire.com. Our Instagram or Twitter handle, all our social media handles are at Naspire Official. I guess if we don't have more questions, in about 3 minutes or less, we will end the live session. But please, you can still send us emails for questions, tips on our Insta, or send us a DM. Okay. At this point, I guess it's time to end. Please, if you have anything, you can send us an email. You can send us a DM, and then we'll be happy to respond to your. We'll be happy to respond to your questions. My name remains Tunji Adegbite. At Naspire is a social learning platform for professionals and entrepreneurs. We basically use African context and business of everything to share knowledge, and this is how we add value. We also provide CV editing services. We have mentoring groups on our platform, and we also provide business coaching. If you need any of our services, please shoot us an email at vimbai@naspire.com or send us a DM. Until next time, this live session will be put on our IG live, and then you can watch it, and we'll also put it on our IGTV so that you can watch some other time. Thank you very much, and have a lovely week ahead. Bye.